Good morning, Odell.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm great, thank you.
Well, that's good.
Hump day, it's all downhill from here.
Hey, there you go. There you go.
Hopefully you're feeling better, got a better night's rest.
Yeah, I did. I got a good night's rest last night. I'm good. So all is well. All is good. Yep. How goes the house hunt?
Oh, it's still going. Still
Okay.
going. Nothing new in the area that I'm looking.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but out here the supply is not great. Although I see because it's now spring, summer, some houses are going on the market, and they're getting picked up pretty quick. We have two in our neighborhood that are going up. That went up Monday, and I think one's already under contract.
Oh yeah. It's definitely a bunch of buyers out there.
Oh yeah.
Good morning and welcome, Marvina. We will start lecture at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. We're glad to have you. Again, welcome. Good morning and welcome, Jason. We will start lecture at about 2 minutes after the top of the hour.
Good morning.
Well,
Sounds
yep.
good.
Yep, welcome. Welcome, David. We'll start our lecture at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. We're glad to have you join us. Again, we'll start at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome. Welcome to those that have just joined. We'll start a lecture at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Again, welcome, and we're glad you're with us. Again, welcome everyone. We'll start our lecture at 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So we got a couple more minutes to allow others to join us. We're glad to have you here at Sumo Logic. And again, we'll get started. So we got about a couple more minutes. So still got a chance to get something to drink or what have you. Welcome for those that just joined us. We'll start in about another minute. We're going to allow others to join us. So again, counting down that minute and we'll get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Good morning and good afternoon and welcome from wherever you're calling in from. My name is Odell Gordon. I am a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic. We're glad to have you join us for this session. A little bit of background about myself. I've been in IT for 30 years and I played several roles in IT, technical trainer, of course, database administrator, database designer, DevOps. So again, my career has really been solely around data, managing it, maintaining it, etc. I'm calling in from the Midwest here. It's overcast and cloudy. Hopefully you're somewhere sunny and warm. I'm going to be joined by my esteemed colleague, John Meredith, who's going to be manning the chat and the QA. So if you have any questions or anything, go ahead and put those in there. John, go ahead and introduce yourself if you like.
Hey, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is John Meredith, as Odell mentioned, and I'm a trainer here. Been here a couple of years. I've also, like Odell, have a wide background in IT, done everything from network administration to DBA to user support to IT manager and all that fun stuff. So glad to have you here with us and look forward to answering some of your questions. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat or the QA. So you're joining us today for our cloud security monitoring and analytics certification session. What we'll be covering in this session here is, I'll give you a brief introduction, that 500-foot overview in 10 minutes or so, okay? Then I'll give you a security demo, I'll give you a security demo as well to kind of get your minds on some of the objectives at hand. Then you and I will have the opportunity to log into our training environment where we'll do some hands-on labs. We'll go ahead and the first 5 labs, we'll go ahead and do some dashboards with some lookups and filters. We'll take a break and then we'll come back and do those last 2 chapters, 6 through 8, pardon me. We'll do those last labs and then we'll export out our SOC dashboard and compliance and threat intel with CrowdStrike. And then finally, you'll have an opportunity to get certified. Again, we'll give you an hour to take the certification test, open book, open notes, open slides. Again, you should be able to pass this one as well. If you've taken any other courses with us, it should be pretty straightforward there. All right, let's get in here and talk about, this is more of that 500-foot overview. This will sort of, some of you have actually seen this slide. If you've taken any of our courses, this is pretty much the same slide. This slide kind of tells you, well, give me a big picture of what's going on, okay? One of the things I'll do here is I'll save some bandwidth and I'll turn off my video and allow you to focus on the lecture and the slides. So when we think about some objectives of what we can achieve in the Sumo Logic environment, if you think about my career, and I talked about working in DevOps, when I worked in DevOps, I would go into the actual Unix console, log into it, look for my logs, and then issue some grep statements, which allows me to search through those logs. So it's more of a manual process. Now, had I been fortunate enough to learn about Sumo Logic, their continuous intelligence platform, I could have created an operational dashboard. You're looking at 4 different types of dashboards that you can create within our tool. And from an operational perspective, I could have learned and gleaned and found out, are all of my systems up? Are there any mean times that I need to resolve or identify? The health of my systems, I could have confirmed or found out from a dashboard dealing with my operational intelligence. Now, from a security perspective, I could have found out, well, who's been logging in and where they're logging in from. Does anyone have the root access permissions? So again, here I could find out and glean information about my users and their logging in, any failed attempts, multiple failed attempts, things of that sort. From a business perspective, I could have found out if we issued a marketing campaign recently, how successful was it? Okay. I could find out which web pages are my customers frequently viewing. Okay. What are they ordering? Again, I could glean information from a business perspective, from a business intelligence dashboard. And then finally, from a global perspective, how's my data comparative to other companies? How is it out in the world? How's my company compared to other companies as well? So again, these are just 4 examples of dashboards that you can, possibly create within our tool. Now we look at, well, how do we create those dashboards? We need data. Yeah, your data. We need your logs and your metrics, all of that machine data that you have. We want all of it. So again, if it's apps, it's just stored in apps. If it's stored in the cloud or in a mobile device or in the SaaS service, again, we're going to have access to your logs and your metrics and allow you to build and query and find out information about what's going on. Now, what do we provide? Our tool. Our tool is a multi-tenancy environment, which means security is priority number 1. Again, we're a cloud-based environment, so we want secure our environment as well as your logs and metrics and your data that you're sending to us. Now, some of you may need to, you're a growing company, so you maybe need to expand, or some of you may be decreasing and downsizing. Well, we're an elastic company. We can meet your needs. We're scalable, okay? You're going to see, and if you haven't seen already, there's some machine learning within our tool, okay? Some advanced analytics. Some companies would like to incorporate Sumo logics into their environment. So APIs, application programming interfaces. We allow all of that, okay? And then from over to the right, you'll see our security, and you'll see over to the right a little flyout window. Those are our testments, our certifications, which we take very seriously. Okay, we're FedRAMP certified. We're SOC 2 certified. We're HIPAA certified. Again, those are just some of our attestments. Again, those are priorities, and we keep our attestments and certifications up to date. And then finally, your people. Again, what we mean by that is we want a single location to share information. We can share what our findings are. Everyone within the company can have access to it. So again, we can achieve that continuous intelligence across all our lines of business because we're able to share. So the big takeaway from this slide here is, hey, the possibilities of what you can create. No worry about your data. We're going to get access to it. Again, what we provide from an analytical perspective, and then sharing your findings across your entire company. All right, now we want to look at our umbrella of security offerings, okay? Let's first look at our, this is our audit and compliance here. But let's first take a look here at that audit and compliance, okay? We're highly scalable. We're a secure platform to store all of your data. Backed by, you saw our attestments and our certifications, okay? Your data collection is scalable. It's ingested from both on-prem as well as a cloud platform, okay? We can I'm gonna talk about it, a host of out-of-the-box, pre-built compliance apps, okay? Again, you'll have some pre-built searches as well as dashboards that you can consume and utilize, and it's a great starting point for you. So again, we have a secure platform, the ingestion, again, large amounts of data, and again, we're compliant with all of our attestments. Now, from a security analytics position, which is also one of our umbrellas of security offerings, this is where you build intelligence. This is where we're going to spend most of our time today. We're going to perform some deep searches using data correlations, okay? We're also going to utilize some pre-built dashboards, and establish some alerts. Now, what we provide is some advanced analytics for troubleshooting, such as we have an integrated threat intelligence based on our industry-leading relationship with CrowdStrike. Okay, we get a CrowdStrike threat intel feed, and you can benefit off of that. CrowdStrike, just to purchase on your own, is very expensive. So one of the features that you'll have, or one of the advantages that you'll have within our tool, is you'll be able to utilize CrowdStrike because of our relationship with CrowdStrike. Okay, you'll be able to do some detections and alerting on anomalies. That machine learning, log reduce and log compare. Again, some of you may have utilized that. It's a technology to rapidly sift through large data sets and then perform some time-based log comparisons. Okay. Again, we'll have some community threat benchmarking using some global intelligence services such as AWS GuardDuty and CloudTrail, as I mentioned. As I mentioned, also, we'll be spending most of our time on this particular solution. All right. And then lastly, our cloud SIM. And our SIM, which is an acronym, which stands for Security Information Security Information and Event Management. So that's our cloud SIM tool. It's a security intelligence which allows us to track continuous threat correlations. You can go back weeks, you can go back hours, you can do it for on-prem or cloud, or even a multi-cloud and hybrid cloud data sources, using some of those out-of-the-box contents that we talked about. You can also streamline security by using some of those built-in analysts, like we have built-in event management to ensure collaboration and improve our team efficiencies. So again, that's our cloud SIM. As I mentioned, we're going to be spending most of our time here, right on the center here, which is our security analytics. Ken, you had a couple questions there. When will these learning sessions recordings be made available? Typically, they're made available by our training team, so they'll probably be within a week. But again, Ken, be aware, you can always go out and to the actual and get those videos from those recorded live trainings. And I can show you that coming up. So we have all the recorded live trainings from our courses out there that you can get at any time. As far as how long having access to the training, that's what another question by Ken, who put it in the Q&A. So the user ID and password that we give you is for our training environment. It'll be available to you until the first Monday of the next month. That's when we change the password. So we change the password each first Monday of the next month. So you have all that time. And in worst case, if you needed to go beyond that, you could always email the training environment and ask for the new updated password. So hopefully that answers your two questions there, Ken. All right. Continuing on here. When we talk about our security analytics, this is where we'll use and create searches and dashboards, and we'll apply some advanced search operators to kind of provide us with a continuous intelligence across our applications. Now, our searches are, easily created using your data. And they can create some dashboards using your queries, and also some advanced analytics are also applied. You'll see some operators. If you haven't already gone through any of our other classes, we're going to use a ton of operators, which are going to allow us to detect and investigate, as well as respond, and then identify any anomalies. Okay, we'll be able to filter some specific events. So again, searches, dashboards, and advanced analytics is what we're going to utilize. Okay. All right. Let me go in here and give you a high-level demo, and just bear with me for a second. Let's see here. log in, and here I am logging in. Here I'm just doing a demo here, ladies and gentlemen. You can just watch. There's no need to jump in here. I'll get into our environment shortly. If I can type in my password correctly. I fat fingered it. All right, let's go. Okay. Bear with me here. All right, there you go. Maybe due to the weather, I'm getting a little slow feedback. But anyhow, I am logging into our environment, and I'm going to demonstrate an actual cloud security and monitoring dashboard. So here I am logging into our CIP. Make sure I am in the demo environment, which I am. I am going to open up one of our folders here that I have saved as a favorite. And I'm going to go into a subfolder here, my security demo 3.0. And I'm going to look at an AWS dashboard. Now on this dashboard, I have several dashboard panels. And remember, under each one of these dashboard panels is an underlying query. Okay, so if we take a look at some of these panels, for this first panel here, this is giving me threat intel. Here I can find out through maybe CrowdStrike, which provides a info about any of those IPs. So any malicious IPs, I can get information from CrowdStrike. It allows me to zoom in here, and I seeing messages coming in from all over the world. So this is where users are logging in from. So here I might find out if I see two of the same users logging in from the same place, from different places around the world at the same time, this might be worth investigating. So again, this is my one dashboard panel that kind of talks about and looks at threat intel. As well as this particular, excuse me, the first one is about logging in. The next one is about threat intel here, where I get that feed from CrowdStrike, any malicious IP addresses. And these are public IP addresses that would be listed here. So again, the first dashboard panel really looks at user IDs and where they're logging in from. The second one, it gives us that feed from CrowdStrike, identifying any malicious IP addresses. And then over to the right here, I can see my my land speed violations. So here we can identify if a user is, one IP is logging in from the United States, and then another IP from the same user ID is logging in to Egypt. And we look at the distance, and we look at the time frame, we're like, well, there's no way that that person could actually be doing that unless they're telnetting or something along those lines. But again, I can get suspicious login distance. This is my land speed, and we'll do something upcoming along these lines. I can look at my data volumes for my S3 buckets. Here I have the ability to filter. Remember, you may not remember this, but I often mention that our legends are interactive, which means I can filter and turn these off and focus on specific buckets as well. Okay. Over to the right here, I'm looking at my AWS guard duty and identifying what items have been actually what items are actually warranted. So our AWS guard duty is a security monitoring service, which allows us to process any virtual private cloud event logs. So our Sumo Logic app allows us to look at our guard duty and provides insight on any activities. So again, I'm looking at my guard duty and getting insight from there. Down below, I see another dashboard panel here, which gives us our VPC flows, again, our virtual private clouds flows. Any outliers can be identified. We see spikes and peaks. Our FW traffic here, again, our firewall traffic, we can look at any attacks or any activity that has been going up against our firewall. We can see some spikes here as well. Down at the bottom here, you'll see our anti-malware events and our integrity monitoring. Here, we're just looking for anomalies. Any abnormal patterns will allow us to identify down here. Again, this was our security overview, our AWS, with over 9 panels on here. Remember that underneath those panels are underlying queries. Okay, so again, that's my 500-foot overview of dashboards that can be created that, again, assist you into monitoring your environments and especially your security environments. All right, going back to my slides now. All right, so I just completed a demo. Now you and I will have the opportunity to log into our training environment. Again, you're logging into our training environment because, again, that's an area that we manage. We know the data. We're not logging into your production environment, okay? What I'd like for each of you to do is think of a 3-digit number from 1 to 999 and put that number in the chat window for me. Thank you, Narav. I am placing your credentials in the chat window. Okay, again, you're going to open up a browser, log into our training environment. William, it needs to be a 3-digit, not 4. So you might want to truncate one of those numbers. Thank you all for putting your numbers in the chat. Thank you. I am going to go ahead and log in as well so you can visually see how it's going to work. I am going to open up a browser. Go ahead and type in service.sumologic.com. Please let us know if you're having any troubles getting into the environment. Again, you're going to type in the training. Whoops, if I don't fat finger things. The plus symbol and the word analyst. You'll put in your 3-digit number at sumologic.com. And then the password, of course, is uppercase L for logs, 2022, exclamation mark. Let me display that. So everyone go ahead and log in with your credentials. You're logging into our training environment. And then please confirm that you were able to successfully log in. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Preet. Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Dipin. Thank you, Yan. All right, Daniel. Let us know if you have any problems logging in. John is here to assist us as well. Thank you, Christopher. Marvina, you're in. Good. Luke, you're in. Awesome. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Jason. All right, we don't want to leave anyone. That's why we're confirming and making sure everyone has the ability to log in. All right, thanks, Craig. All right, thank you, Jill. Doreen, try using another 3-digit number. Again, I'll put the credentials in. Make sure you're using an exclamation mark after the password. Again, the logs is uppercase. Thank you, Ken. And Doreen, if I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. Thank you, Tim. All right, so it looks like a lot of you are in. Go ahead and put it in chat if you're having any issues logging in. Yeah, Tim, you're going to have all that stuff from yesterday because, again, you're using the same ID. That's great, right? That's something to be mindful of. So that's awesome. Yep. Thank you for pointing that out. Some of you have taken the class with us. We have a 3-day session, so some of you took a class with us yesterday, so you're using the same ID, so no worries. All right, let's get started here. So again, ladies and gentlemen, remember, for those of you that may not have been in the class, let me just kind of quickly demonstrate the environment. Right now, you're seeing on my screen that I have my navigation panel extended. If you came in and you didn't see the navigation panel, there's a stack of hamburgers next to the phrase Sumo Logic. If you click on that, that extends your navigation panel, okay? If you ever need to log out, remember your main menu down at the bottom, you click on your name that you logged in and sign out, okay? So again, that's your navigation panel over to the right. In the center, of course, you have those 3 tabs: home, library, and alert. We're spending our time on home. Right now, I have the home link. Again, that's where you can see anything that you've opened recently. The learn link, we have some great starting point videos, some quick start videos for you. Also, let me remind you all that there's tons of YouTube videos out there on Sumo Logic. So again, don't be afraid to go out there and explore as well. All right. So again, we give you starting point videos to get your palette wet. If you also, again, I'm on the Learn tab. We also give you starting points for your fundamentals as well as administration. Okay. Over to the right, you'll see the 6 blocks. Well, the key points there are your documentation, the cheat sheet. I often bring this up because this is where we're going to spend a lot of time as well. We're going to be using operators. And when you guys come back and take our search mastery, or if you've already taken it, you'll see these are a lot of the operators that we utilize. All I'm doing is giving you a quick 5-minute overview of the CIP, the Continuous Intelligence Platform, so you'll be able to maneuver within here, okay? All right, now again, also I'll remind you to get trained. We do have upcoming trainings. So one of those things you can click on those icons is the get trained that opens our LMS system. And within here, you can, again, register for other upcoming classes that we have coming up. Our June classes will all be out here shortly. So again, you'll be able to click on the June classes and register for those as well. We look forward to having you, okay?
Odell, getting
Yes,
a
sir.
lot of requests for where the recordings are. So if you could show them that.
Okay. Perfect. All right, so good point, great segue. So again, if you want the recordings, the actual slides and the lab guide, what you can do is go to your home tab, your certification link, click on the Get Certified. Once you click on Get Certified, it opens up our Skill Jar app. And again, you're gonna click on Recorded Live Training. Again, this is where all of our recordings are. Click on this icon, this box here, and again, you can find each discipline. All right. So our cloud security and monitoring. You just register free. You'll get the 2-hour lecture from my esteemed colleague, John Meredith. And then you'll have the ability to download the slides as well as the lab guide. Okay, so hopefully that answers all of your questions that have been asking about the videos. Okay. Jason, you can get that from both accounts, from your environment. All you have to do is follow the steps that I went through, or you can do it within the training annals. In your environment, you'll have the recordings as well. So just make sure you follow the steps of going through certification, then clicking on recorded live trainings. Okay. All right, hopefully that answers everyone's questions. All right, now, you're welcome. Let's go ahead, Jabez. Let's go ahead and Doreen, if your account is locked, use another number. So use 583 or something. Just use another number. Okay. All right, I see a few of us that had issues logging in. No, this training, Denzel, is for those that could be interested in it as well. So anyone can take the training. The trainings are free. All right. You're welcome. Lively. All right, so let's talk about where our labs are for this course. As I mentioned before, on the Home tab, Learn link, we give you the labs for our fundamentals and our administration. But we need the actual labs for our cloud security class. So how do we get there? I often mention this to users. I don't know everything in this tool. This tool is, this is a software company, so things change. So one of my resources, which should also be yours, is opening up a browser and typing in help.sumologic.com. This is also a way that you can find the actual labs. So when I type in help.sumologic.com, I again often tell users here, this is a great starting point. Clicking on that start here. When we click on that start here, we'll see a set of choices on the left. We want to go to the quick start labs and tutorials. From here, we can see all of our labs and tutorials from these particular training courses. Here is our cloud security and monitoring and analytics. Okay, I'll go ahead and paste that in the chat for you in case there's anyone that can't get to that. Again, these are the actual lab steps that we're going to utilize, and I'm going to lead you through, guide you through them. If you're in a Google Chrome environment, one of the neat tricks you can utilize is you can pin your tabs. So I'm going to right click up here on my actual lab steps and pin it. The advantage that I have now, it allows me to toggle rather quickly between my lab guide and the CIP. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So right now we're on lab number 1 here, our hands-on lab, cloud security monitoring and analytics. We're going to end up building a dashboard that will allow us to monitoring security and any compliance, okay? Scrolling down throughout here, again, remember, we have a lot of out-of-the-box apps, which are great starting points for AWS, GCP, Okta. Again, those out-of-the-box apps are for you, they're available. We also have out-of-the-box global intelligence for CloudStrike, GuardDuty, CloudTrail. Again, those are some baselines that you can create, okay? You're going to see some of those machine learnings that we're going to exemplify in our tool to identify those anomalies. Again, scrolling down here, we are going to get access to all of your data, your logs and your metrics, whether they come from SaaS or they come from an on-prem. We're going to detect, investigate, and respond, okay? Detect, investigate, and respond. And those are iterations that we'll continue to follow, okay? All right, so that's the introduction. Again, we're going to end up building this here dashboard that has multiple cloud security monitorings, dashboard panels for us, okay? Let's go ahead and click on lab number 1, monitoring user activity. We're going to learn the basic operators to parse and group our search results. So everyone should be clicking on that lab 1. So when we talk about monitoring user activity, this is going to help us understand what they're doing, okay, in our AWS cloud, how they're using it, okay? By monitoring our activity, we may be able to isolate any potential malicious activities. So in this first lab, we're going to create a query that'll show us the top 10 AWS activities with their user information. We're also going to learn some basic parsing with our JSON and how to make it a visual chart, okay? The visual chart will become one of our panels in our starter security operations center, okay? In that dashboard, okay? By the end of lab 6, we're gonna have created 5 panels for our SOC dashboard, okay? All right. Looks like Doreen is having a problem. When do I put my 3-digit number, which is 853? So Doreen here, if you look at the actual credentials here that we're putting in the chat, those pound symbols, that's where you're going to put the 3-digit number in, okay? You'll replace the pound symbols with the 3-digit number. And let me just kind of put that in there for you again. So right here, if you look at the actual chat, you'll see here, here's the pound symbols. You'll put your 583 there. Okay, you're welcome. All right, so CloudTrail log is a record in our JSON format, okay? The log contains information about requests for resources in your account, such as who made the request, the services used, the actions performed, any of the parameters for the actions. So we're going to search our CloudTrail logs to extract the user, the event, the IP address as the metadata using the parse.json. So we're going to use the extracted values and monitor. We're going to use this for over 24 hours. So what I'd like for you to do, everyone, go ahead and highlight what's under number 1, highlight the entire object and copy it, okay? And let's go back over to our CIP. And then let's go ahead and click on the new button. We want to create a new log search. You can skip any informational messages that may pop up. And let's go ahead and paste in our actual query. Now, one of the techniques that I'm going to share with you is I have the ability to comment out lines. And one of the techniques that I'm going to use here is I'm going to click on, I'm on a Mac, I'm going to click on my options button. And you'll notice my mouse changes. And I'm going to hold down my left mouse and drag it down, okay? Now, what I would like to do is apply something to all of these lines. This is the technique to do that. So if I type in these letters, all of those letters apply to all of those lines. But my goal here, ladies and gentlemen, is here to comment out. And in order to comment, we use the slashes. So I use 2 slashes to comment out those lines. I want to change my time period to 60 minutes. So the reason I commented these out is because I want you to be able to see what logs are being returned. So we're using the source category metadata tag, and we're bringing back our CloudTrail logs. Okay, so I'll go ahead and run that for the last 60 minutes, just to give you an idea of what's going on. Now, one of the features of our tool, and it's based on this gear symbol here, one of the features of our tool is going to do auto parsing. That auto parsing mode is automatically turned on. So any JSON logs, you're going to get auto parsing. And what the benefit of that is, you'll see in our field browser, all of these extra fields. Since it's a JSON log, our tool takes advantage of that JSON log and it parses out those fields. It makes them hidden fields. Again, the advantage of that from a analyst perspective, I don't have to do any parsing, okay? So if we look here at our actual logs, we see the time and the message, okay? And we see key value pairs. We see the key and the value, the ID and the value, the key and the value, key and the value. And you'll notice that some of them have even lower items. So for example, let me scroll down here and all right, let me look at my, it's easier to kind of display here in my field browser. If I look at my user identity, so here in my user identity, I see a period. Underneath user identity is also username. So right here, I see user identity. If I click this arrow, there's some fields underneath it. So they're parsing out the actual username under user identity and giving it a name of actor. We're parsing out our event type, giving it an alias of event type, and so forth and so on. So we are using our JSON field raw to parse out and rename these fields, okay? So I can take that off for the first one just to kind of give you an idea and run that again. So what you're going to see now here is I have a new column here, as well as in my field browser, I had a new field that's going to be displayed. And I see also I have a column now that's filtering out my actors. The next two do the same thing. They filter out event type. So event type will be filtered out as a new column, as well as my source IP. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. And we're running it for the last 60 minutes. Notice over in our display fields, we now have event type and source IP. Again, they are now column headers. I can easily scroll through these and find out our items. Again, I'm seeing over 2,000 results. I'm looking at page 1 of 114. And again, there's 25 per page. All right, now let's go back over to our lab guide here. Now, our tool does that auto parsing for us with that auto parsing option on it to make those fields available. But we can parse as well. If we wanted to, we can use our user interface to interactively parse. Some of you have used our parse statements before in earlier classes. We're going to parse the event name in JSON. We're going to position our cursor at the end of our last query, and we're going to then highlight event name and then right mouse click on it and parse the key. Okay, so let's go ahead and show you that manual process. So let's go back to our CIP. We can look at that very first message. Okay, we can highlight event name, right click on our event name. We get a set of choices. We're going to parse selected key. Notice what happens in your actual query. Again, we were able to easily parse out that field. Okay, now if you got a bunch of extra lines between your prior statement, you can just delete those. We want to follow the same behavior by giving it an alias. So we'll type in a space and type in as, and then we'll type in event underscore name. All right, so we just demonstrated a manual way of doing a parse. Highlighting the field, right clicking on it, and parsing the key. All right, awesome. Hopefully you were able to all do that. Congratulations, the first 5 lines of the query are complete. We've learned how to easily parse using JSON. Now we can add some additional lines. So under number 5 is where we are, number 5. Since we want to filter the event type in our panel, we are going to create an option, which they refer to as pivoting, where we're able to have multiple choices, okay? Eventually, this will be on the dashboard, and we'll enter the following code. So let's highlight on number 5 and copy that where. Okay. Now, if this is your first time in our tool, in order to add a new blank line, I'm placing my cursor at the end of the prior statement. So I'm placing my cursor at the end. And I'm on a Mac, so I'm using Shift Return. If you're on anything other than a Mac, you can use Alt Enter. Okay, but again, on my Mac, I'm using Shift Return. That's going to add that new line for me. And now I can paste. This where is reading where the event type, which is an alias of an event type that we pulled out from our JSON file, matches event type. Okay. Yeah, Cheng Yu, that's fine. Shift return works, whichever one works, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing with us. All right, now that we have that item, we want to, again, choose our event type. So we want to have a parameter. So let's go ahead and highlight that newly created alias called event type. What you're going to notice is over to the right, there's a create a parameter. So when you have an object highlighted, this will become enabled. So we click on create a parameter, and notice I'm saying now where my event type matches, and we get a pop-up window. Okay, we're going to go ahead and rename our parameter name and call it event type. We'll leave everything the same, congruent. Okay, it's a string data type. If we wanted to, we can also add a description as well. Let's go down where it says set values. Okay, we can see all of the options that we have available. Let's go ahead and save this. Now, what you're going to see over to the right now is you've actually created a parameter. How did you do that? You highlighted a field and you went over to create parameter. The last thing we need to do is let's go to the 3 dots of the parameter and manage the parameter settings. That takes us back to where we were. Okay. So we're going to change our default value to an asterisk. So that says any of our event types, we want to see them all. And let's save that. Okay. So let me know if I'm going too fast, if I left you or anything. Again, all we've done so far is created a parameter that's going to allow us to choose from different types of events. Okay. All right. So now that we see the parameter window, we've actually are able to go ahead and continue building. Okay. We were able to change that item with the curly brackets by adding an asterisk to give us wildcards. Now we're going to create a second filter by directly coding it. Okay, we're going to use a where statement where we can create the parameter on the actor. The curly brackets define the variables that create that parameter. Just like we created event type, on the second line, we're going to use the count to aggregate our results as an actor and the event type. Okay, so let's go ahead and highlight these last 3 lines, these 4 lines here, and copy. And let's go back to our CIP. Let's place our cursor at the end of the where statement. And let's add a new line. And let's paste. All right, you'll notice what happens automatically. Okay, and let me comment out these last 3 lines just to kind of give you an overall overview. You'll notice what happened when we added that where statement with the actor. Again, where actor matches, and you have to use a match because it's going to allow us to choose any one of our choices. We see our actual parameter created for actor, but we don't want it equal to actor. We're going to replace right there where it reads actor and put an asterisk. So we want to bring back all of our actual actors. Okay. So if I run this now, again, we can see we have a newly created field called actor. Okay. There's our event name. There was our event type and our source IP. Okay. All right. Next, we're counting by our actor, event type, and event name. So some of those aliases we're counting by. Again, I'm stepping you through this so you can see the progression as it's being made with this query. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, whenever you add an aggregate, whether that's count, min, max, average, it's going to render an aggregates tab. So now we see our count by actor, by event type, by event name, and our overall count. So you can see the actual method that they actually were created. All right. Next, we want to utilize our top 10. So we want the top 10 actors by event type. Okay. Running that. Now the top operator automatically sorts in descending order. Some of our operators sort automatically. Okay. And it's sorting based on the event type, of course. Okay. And then lastly, the numbers are great, ladies and gentlemen, but we like to do some comparisons, some analysis, identify trends. This list, this table, it's sort of difficult to identify comparisons, trends, and things of that sort. So we want to, of course, use the transpose. The transpose is going to give us that Excel-like look where we have columns and rows. The transpose statement reads, I want my actors on the rows. I want my event types on the columns. Okay, let's go ahead and run that. And here is an easier way for us to do comparisons, do analysis, and trends. We can see that we have two types of events. We can see our counts. We can see our actors on the rows. All right. In the parameter window, we'll need to, we already replaced the names with the asterisk. So we already done part 6 here. Let's move on to step 7. We're running our query for 24 hours. I did it for 60 minutes. We can change that to 24 hours shortly. Okay, let's get down to creating a chart from the table. Okay. We will now look at our data and view our data in a bar chart. Okay. Key things to remember is that in order to create a chart, you need an aggregate in your query. So you won't have those chart options unless you have an aggregate. Okay. So let's go ahead and choose a bar chart. So I'm going back to the CIP. I'm on my aggregates tab. Over to the right, I have my chart options here. So again, I have my column chart and my bar chart. I'm gonna go ahead and choose a bar chart. Now, some of the things that we can do is with these charts, and I failed to remind you of this the other day, is you can go to the gear symbol here and you can change some of the properties of the chart. So let's say I wanted to change the colors. I don't like blue. Blue is not hard, it's hard for me to see, so I can change the colors. Okay, so again, all I did was go to the gear symbol, click on change properties. Hey, Odell, I really like to see the numbers. I'm not ready for a chart. How do I see the numbers again? Great point, great question. This very first icon here, table icon, allows you to go back to the numbers. Okay, then you can go back to your actual chart. All right. All right, so we did that. All right, now we want to customize our parameters. So we're just after number 10 here. We're customizing our parameters with a lookup table. Okay. Now, at the top of our query, we're going to notice that we have a parameter window with 2 variables. event type and actor. Both were created in using the query with the double curly brackets, okay? Parameters are very useful for security investigation. They allow you to filter, and that's the reason we're doing all of this. We have a lot of options, so we want to be able to filter for our investigation in our dashboards. To manage our parameters, we know we can click on those three icons and go to manage our parameters, okay? What we're about to do is go ahead and set up a lookup table. So we're going to go to number 13 here. So hopefully you're following along here. We're going to go and go to our manage parameter settings. And then we're going to go to our drop down in our data field and change our actual values. All right, so let's go back over to our CIP. And let's go to the three dots to the right of the event type parameter. Click those three dots. Go to manage parameter settings. Okay, as I just read to you, again, we saw the event type, the data type. What we want to do together, ladies and gentlemen, is we want to go ahead and click on that set values for parameter. Okay, and once we click on that, we see other options. We want to choose how we want to build a list to auto-complete our values. So click that drop down arrow where it reads select the format. And you'll see a list of items. You can have text entries, label value pairs. Remember, we talked about key value pairs, but label value pairs. But we're going to choose lookup here. Okay. So the format that we're providing is a lookup table. Okay. We want to go and ensure that we want to use our shared event types as the lookup file. So what I'm doing, ladies and gentlemen, to make sure I don't fat finger it, I'm just grabbing it from number 13. You can type this as well. Okay, so I'm going to highlight the /shared event type and copy that. Okay, and go back to my CIP. And right here where it says lookup file, I'm going to paste that actual shared event /event type. It should give you a pop-up. You can click on that as well. Odell, what are we doing? I'm lost. Well, what we're doing here is we're building a dashboard that's going to allow us to make selections from our event type and our actor, which allows us to filter our query. We're building in the lookup table right now. We're defining that now, okay? All right, now let's scroll down. We need to create a value or select a value. So when we click there, event type should appear. So all we did was we came into our manage parameter settings. We went down to our set values for parameter and chose the lookup table. We actually provided a lookup table that's already been created for us in our shared event types folder. We set the actual default value, okay, and save. Okay, awesome. Okay, hopefully you got all of that done. Now we're on to number 14 here. We need to run our report in order for those changes to take effect. So let's go ahead and run this. All right, so if we were to go ahead and run it, we'll see that our items have been updated. Let's go back to our CIP, excuse me, our actual lab guide. So again, we just completed number 14. We're now on create a panel in our SOC dashboard. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to end up going through multiple labs that's going to allow us to add panels to a dashboard. And that actual dashboard is going to be our SOC dashboard, okay? So let's go ahead and click on our add to dashboard. We're going to give our panel a name. So over here, all the way over to the right, you'll see the phrase add to dashboard. Let's click on that. Let's give this a panel a name. So I'll go ahead and call it top 10 activities. Again, I'll put my initials just in case I run into any issues here. All right, now, once we click on the dashboard area, ladies and gentlemen, what it's doing when you see that progression bar, it's going and finding all the existing dashboards. So this is one area where we could actually add our top 10 user activity dashboard to an, panel to an existing dashboard. We could do that. We don't want to do that. We actually want to create our own new dashboard. And we're going to call it SOC with our initials and our number. So for example, we'll type in the word SOC, and I'm uppercasing it so it'll be easy to find. Again, I'm using an underscore and putting my initials. And then I'm also putting the 3-digit number as well. Okay, so what you're going to notice is you filter down to where it reads, now you're creating a new dashboard. So let's go ahead and click on that. Let's go ahead and throw this switch, creating in a new UI. We're going to throw that off. We're not going to utilize that. And let's click add. Now, if you didn't throw that switch, you're going to get an error message. So hopefully you did throw that switch. So what you're seeing, or what it should take you to, is to your dashboard where you have your first panel. Okay. Remember that anything you create and save is going to be stored in your actual personal folder. So if we were to close the tab, we can also still see that dashboard that we created right here. Okay, let's get back in here. All right. Jill, if you miss the switch, again, I would suggest you go back to the actual search, click add dashboard. And if you're watching on my screen, I'm doing it again for you. Once you click add dashboard, again, give it the name and then give it a new unique name. Click create new dashboard, and right here is the switch. So right after you click create dashboard, you'll see the switch right here, and turn that off. Okay. You're welcome. No worries. Good question. All right. Where was I at? All right. So let's see. Has everybody noticed the filter? All right. So what we want to let you know here, you can click on the filter and enter a various values for event type or actor. Since we added a lookup table for our event type, once we delete the asterisk, we're going to see options there for us. So again, let me demonstrate what we mean. So over here, if I remove the event type, I now see I have a choice. If I wanted to see any API calls, or if I want to see any console sign-ins. Okay, so how did we get those, Odell? How did those appear? Remember, what we did was we went into our managed parameter settings, and we added that lookup table. So that's how those values got there. Okay. All right. So again, if I run this and I make a selection here, I want to see all my AWS API calls and run that with AWS API calls, I'll get my actual information. Okay. Might not be too many or what have you, and I see that. Okay. Awesome. All right, let's get back here. All right, so let's wrap this up with some quizzes. These quizzes are really to kind of get your minds around what you're going to expect in the upcoming exam. Okay. You can turn off your mics and answer these, or you can answer in the chat. First question: JSON field equals raw, source IP as source or SRC IP. This is going to extract our source IP and all its subsequent values appearing in the upcoming log message. True or false? Excuse me. Is my mic on? Can you guys hear me? Again, true or false? You can answer these. What did that JSON? Thank you, Preet. Thank you. Thank you, David. Thank you, Christopher. It's true. Yeah, we saw that JSON and it extracted the values. That's correct. All right. Question number 2. Double curly brackets enclosed in a variable label are used to create a parameter. See, Narav has answered. Jason, yeah, absolutely. That's true. We use the curly brackets in our query in order to actually prompt or create a parameter. Awesome. And then lastly, number 3, we use the setting icon in the messages tab to change the color of the bar graph. Awesome. Good catch, David. That's false. Let me go back here. Someone said, a lot of you are saying true. Let me go back here for a second. Let me go to my actual query. Okay. And again, we went to the messages. And if I go here, there's nothing there. So again, that was on the aggregates tab, went to the gear symbol and changed properties. Sort of a trick question, okay? But good job. All right. So those of you that said true, hopefully I made that clear and that answer is false. All right. So congratulations, you've completed the following tasks. You created a query to monitor user activity. You created a bar chart. You created both a lookup and a string parameter. You created a panel in the SOC dashboard, and you created a filter for the dashboard. All right, let's take a quick 5-minute break here. Breathe, stretch, get away from the console for a minute, and then we'll continue on, okay? So let's take our quick 5-minute break and come back and continue on. Okay, welcome back. James, I hope you got a good cup of Java. Some of us had a coffee break, so hopefully you got a chance to get some coffee and you water or what have you. All right, let's get back in here and get started. We had just completed lab number 1. So in our lab guide, let's go ahead and click on in the bottom right corner, our lab number 2. We want to utilize the geolocation of console logins. We want to see where users are logging in from around the world, okay? We will learn about and apply our geo lookup mapping functionality, and then we're going to identify where users are logging in, ensure that they are from an expected location. So in this lab, we're going to detect potential login threats. We will query our AWS CloudTrail data from our console logins coming in. All right, so let's go down here. And what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I'm going to go down and get the actual full query under number 8, and then I'll break it down for you, okay? Because a lot of these steps are the same. So under number 8, I'm right-clicking and copying that. I'm going to go ahead and create a new log search. You can close those tabs if you want to, because remember, you saved them. If not, you can just click on new log search, whatever makes you happy there. Let's go ahead and paste in our actual query. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and comment out those where statements. Okay. Again, just to kind of define to you what we're doing. I'm using my options key, and I'm dragging down a line so I can comment those last lines out. And again, we're doing this for 24 hours, so I'm going to change my time period. And again, run this query. So as before, all it's doing is parsing out our JSON fields: actor, event type, source, IP, and results. Our console login is our results. Okay, so you'll see in our results sets, we now have those 4 new created columns. They're also display fields. I can see the actor, the event type, the result, as well as the source IP. I wanted to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, about the field browser. One of the features that I often kind of use is, if I wanted to know, well, how many event types do I have? I can just click on the name of event type, and I can see in this instance, we only have 1, and that's all AWS Console sign is. If I wanted to look at the different actors, I can see all of the list of actors and what percentages that their messages make up. Okay, so again, just a reminder of some of the features that you're able to actually utilize. Now, the next statement in our actual query is a where clause, and we're saying where our actor is not empty. That exclamation mark is for not empty. Okay, so I'll run that, and it's going to only bring back where there is an actor value, because maybe we have some of these private IP address that doesn't have an actor displayed. Again, that exclamation point is that not, and you might remember that from SQL as well. All right. So it goes through, and notice our numbers are different. We're now seeing over 5,000 items. We're seeing 1 of 234. If I do this again, just to kind of show you that there's a difference in number, it's still going, so let it run. All right, now if I do this for, you'll see the number is a lot bigger. So again, those are 5,000 items. And I take that actor off. All right, the next statement is we want to show where our event types are not empty. So we're bringing back only where there's an actor and there's an event type. Okay, so that is empty with the exclamation mark is that not empty. Okay. Again, we see our list of values. We see our total number of results. All these items should have an actor and an event type. Okay. Our next statement is a where clause where you've seen us do this. We want to create parameters. We want to be able to select from a list of choices. So we're going to go ahead and use a where for our event type. And let me do one more thing. In case yours is similar to mine, again, I added that lookup to a new row. I'm going to remove the where for my actor as well and just keep it for lookup. Okay. So again, here I am excluding any actors or event types that don't have any values. I'm creating a parameter for event type and actor by using the curly brackets as well as the matches operator. So we'll run that. Again, you'll probably get a red pop-up message. We need to replace what's there with an asterisk. Again, event type can't equal event type. It needs to equal asterisk, so it'll bring back all the values. So when we run that again, we won't get that red message that we got before. Odell, why is yours appearing below? Because it ran out of space because of the message with. Okay, so no worries about where it appears. That's not a big deal. So again, now we have our event type as well as our actor where we'll be able to utilize eventually that actual lookup table. Okay. Lastly, we have a relationship with Newstar. Newstar is our GeoMap provider. We have a table that they update. Okay. If we send Newstar the IP address, and let me put this count on another line as well. If we send our new star the IP address, they will provide us with the region, the city, the country name, the longitude and the latitude, okay? Just by us providing the IP address, okay? So this IP address is then going to the lookup table and providing those options, okay? So we'll go ahead and run that. Give it an opportunity to complete. And what you're going to notice in your results down at the bottom here, we see the actor, we see the actual city that they're logging in from, the country they're logging in from, how they logged in, as well as the latitude and longitude, okay? And we see the results as well as the IP, and then our message. So you're getting a lot of information from providing that source IP, okay? And lastly, we're going to go ahead and count our actors, our source IPs, our latitude and longitudes, our country name, and our event types over the last 24 hours. Again, we have a count, so that's going to give us an aggregate tab. Here we can identify the actual number of messages coming from that actor as well as their location, okay? All right, just kind of walking through. Yep, we have the asterisks, did all of that. Yep. Now we're going to go ahead and create a map. So I am, and you should also be under number 8, which should be number 9. In my book, it looks like 7, but I don't have my good glasses on. So we want to go back to our CIP, and we can click on this icon over to the right here, this here map icon, because again, we were able to provide the SRC IP, which provided our longitude and latitude. So let's go ahead and click on that map. And here we can visually see around the region, the world, where those entrance points are. Okay, you can zoom into the actual map and scroll all the way down to the actual street location. All right. Now that we have the data we want to add to our existing dashboard, let's go ahead and add this dashboard that we created to our SOC, okay? We're gonna call this Cloud Trail Geo of sign-in activity. So I'm just copying the actual name so I don't have to type it, okay? Let's go back to our CIP. Let's click on the phrase over to the right, add to dashboard. We're going to give this panel a name. Let's call it Cloud Trail Geo of sign-in activity. And I'll go ahead and add my initials. It's not mandatory that you do it. Okay. And we want to add it to an existing dashboard. So let's go ahead and click in the existing dashboard. We can start to type as well, SOC. And that'll filter down, get us close to where we want to go to. So SOC underscore my initials, and I should see my existing dashboard. That's what I'm going to click on, the existing. I'm not creating a new. I'll click add. It's going to prompt me, hey, Odell, the following parameters names can be changed if you want. Do you want to keep them the same? We'll leave them as it is, okay? It just says it conflicts with the dashboards, those names, that's all. We'll leave them as they are. So notice now, we now have our top 10 users and where they're signing in from, okay? You'll notice that we didn't have to flip that switch because the actual dashboard already existed. That switch is only applied when there's a new dashboard, okay? All right, so let's take a look at some quiz questions. And again, you can either answer them in the chat or you can answer them by unmuting yourself. True or false? Lookup uses the CrowdStrike data to provide the latitude and longitude. That's correct. That's false. You're right, Prabhu. You're right, Grant. That's false. Okay. We use the new star to look up the latitude and longitude. Okay. Yeah, the geolocation. That's correct, David. That's right. So the first answer is false. The next question. I can display a map without aggregating data. Correct. That's false. You guys, I was saying correct to you guys, but that the answer is false. Remember, I told you have to have an aggregate in order to create and see those objects. Okay, the map or the chart again. And lastly, I can use or we can use an add panel to add to an existing dashboard. I see a lot of you going back to look for the phrase, and it's not add panel. You can use an add panel to add. That's correct. It's actually false. You're using the add dashboard. So the add to dashboard. I don't see an add to panel, but that's a trick question. So there's add to dashboard. All right, very good. Let's keep our momentum going. Let's go ahead and choose our top 10 number of failed login attempts. Okay, the top, lab 3, the top 10 number of failed login attempts. Oftentimes you want to detect users who fail to log in to their account. The user could have forgotten their password, or someone could be attempting to hack into your network, okay? In this lab, we're gonna filter the incoming log to observe the top 10 login failures. We're gonna learn how to aggregate our data over time and filter on a specific user activity, okay? We're gonna use the time slice and the top operator. All right, so I'm gonna go down to number 9 and highlight the entire query. Again, number 9, I'm highlighting the entire query and I'm copying that. Going back to the CIP, clicking on a new log search. Okay, and I'm pasting. All right, so just to kind of visually look at these, let's kind of observe what we're doing. Okay, I'm not going to comment out anything just yet. I just want to kind of see a lot of this is the same. So again, we're still going against our CloudTrail. We're using our metadata tag source category. We're parsing out our username, calling it actor, parsing out our event type, calling it event type, our source IP, calling it SRC IP. We're parsing out our console under the response element and calling it results. And let me go ahead and put this on the next row. All right, so, and then we're parsing out our event name. Okay, so all of those first 5, 6 rows you should be familiar with, okay? Then we're using a where our event type matches so we can create that parameter. We're using a where the actor matches so we can create another parameter, okay? Then we only want to bring back where there is a value for actor. We only want to bring back where there is a value for event type. So I'm just going to comment out those last lines there and run our query for 24 hours. Okay, so this, the first, we got to replace that. I keep forgetting that, which is great. Okay, you'll see when I attempt to run, it says field is required. And you look at it and you're like, well, I have a field name there. No, again, event type can't even equal event type. We want to see all of the values there, okay? So again, we'll do the same thing for actor. We want to see all of the values. All right, so now when we run that again, we'll get to see values. And these are some of the same values that we actually filter out before: actor, event name, event type, results, and SRC IP. Okay. Next, we're using a where clause. We want our results, which is the response element.council login. We wanted our results to actually be failure. So where our result is failure. So we can run that. This is only going to bring back where it has a failure result. Okay, and I can prove that theory by going to my response element and looking underneath it once it finished running. So if I go to my response element and click the arrow to the right of it, I'll see the council login is failure. Okay. So again, all we're doing is equating where the results are failures. Yeah, David, again, it's probably just spacing where your parameters appear. If you will recall, my parameters actually appeared below before, and that was because I had a long line of code. So again, it really just depends, but you should still be fine. You're welcome. All right, so this is still running. It's finally finished. Again, I see that I should have only failures in my results column. All right, the next statement here in my where clause is going to equate my event to my AWS councils. Okay, so the event type is going to be AWS councils. Again, you can also validate that by going to your event type and expanding it and seeing that it equates to your AWS council. You could also, remember, go over to your field browser, click on the name, and you can see that, hey, 100% of these are all AWS councils. That's because we use that filter to filter it down. The next statement is using a time slice operator. We want to create buckets. And the buckets that we want to create are in 1 hour chunks. So we're going to create a bucket for 1 hour. So we're going to have 1 hour buckets here using the time slice operator. Okay, we'll let that finish and then click run it again. All right, so again, that was finished. Now, again, it's going to get ready to render in 1 minute buckets chunks. Okay. The statement underneath that is your count by. Again, the operator count by, it wants us to count by time slice. Now, I want to point this out to you, ladies and gentlemen. Notice my time slice has an underscore. The actual operator doesn't. But since we're using the time slice operator, we have to make it as a placeholder. In order to make an operator a placeholder, we use the underscore in front of it. So we're counting by our time slice, so whatever values are in there, our actor, our event type, and our event name and our results. You know, and I know, and we know that whenever we render, or whenever our query has an aggregate in it, it's going to go ahead and create that new tab, the aggregates tab for us. Okay, once this completes, we'll go ahead and run that again. Again, I like walking you through it. So one, you can appreciate the new operators that we're viewing, and two, that you can visually see the results in the step-by-step phase. Okay, I'll do the last two together. That top 10, remember the top is going to automatically sort in descending order. We want to bring back the top 10 actors by time slice, event type, result, and count. Okay, let's go ahead and run that for the last 24 hours. So we get our aggregates tab. We see by time slice, our item is sorted in descending order by time slice, then event type, then results, and then our count. Okay, while that's running. All right, now we're going to pivot our metadata to observe different aspects of our analysis. Okay, when metadata pivots, that means when you have multiple choices, when you can choose. Pivots are hardwired, like the event type in the query above. We can add comments as well. Okay, for example, we can add a comment that allows us to comment out items. We use the backslash to comment out items. All right, so we ran our query. We should get our results. Mine is still running. Hopefully yours is completed. I'm seeing all of my failed logins through signing in. I'm seeing the actor and the time and how many times that they failed. So if I can also set up an outlier here where I set up where anything greater than 3 or 2, I want to be alerted about. So again, we talked about that in other classes, creating alerts as well. So it's completed. Let's go back to our guide here. Now we want to add this panel to our dashboard. It's going to be called the top 10 failed login attempts. Okay. So let's go back to our CIP. Here's our top 10 here. We can click on the add to dashboard. Again, you're adding your panel to the dashboard. Let's give our panel a name. We'll call it top 10 failed login attempts. And you can put your initials if you like. You don't have to, it's not mandatory. And again, we're going to click on the dashboard and we're going to start typing in SOC so we can filter down to ours. It's case insensitive. I found mine, SOC, and add. You're going to get that pop-up again because you have parameters. Again, you can just keep the parameters. Now you have 3 panels in your dashboard. Okay, good job. Let's go to our quiz down at the bottom. Adding a wildcard in the parameter window means it will filter out everything. True or false? Yeah, it's not going to filter out everything. It's going to bring back everything. That's what the wildcard does. It brings back everything. Thank you, David. Thank you, Grant. Okay. Time slice groups my incoming logs into chunks of time. True or false? See one answer. Grant has answered. Daniel, thank you, Narav. Yeah, you guys are all correct. That's true. Remember that time slice creates buckets for us, or chunks, for another word. Okay. True or false? The following code, pipe where is empty, excuse me, pipe where exclamation mark is empty, actor, filters out logs that do not have an actor. Correct. That exclamation mark is the key thing there. Okay. Awesome. Congratulations. You completed the following. You know how to look at users' activity. You filtered on the top values. You've analyzed data over time, and you've aggregated your counts. All right. Let's go ahead and get into lab 4, account compromising and detections from our brute force attacks. It's important to understand your brute force attacks. Again, brute force cyber attacks account for 5% of security breaches in government, business, organizations, and even with private individuals. The actors are getting more and more clever in their techniques. So you want to teach these attempts. You want to catch these attempts, pardon me, okay? You can detect the brute force attempt by monitoring your CloudTrail data for high number of failed attempts within a period of time. So in this lab, we're going to detect a brute force attack, hacking technique used to find out the user credentials by applying an if condition statement and then aggregating and summing. Okay. Now, again, as I mentioned to my students all the time, I don't know everything in this tool, and what I use as a resource is my help.sumologic.com. And one of the reasons that I often go here is, again, to find out new information or information I don't know about. So threat intelligence, okay, I'm going to go out here and search for threat intelligence, and I'm going to share this document with you because I think it's something that can be helpful here. Okay, I'm looking at the threat intel FAQ here. Okay, and it leads to CrowdStrike and our relationship with CrowdStrike and the benefits here. And it also talks about different types of actors and classifications of actors. This is a good read to kind of get you an overview of, again, those CrowdStrike integration into our Sumo logic. And again, I'll put this in there. The benefit of this, ladies and gentlemen, like I said at the very beginning, CrowdStrike is pretty expensive. The benefit you have of utilizing our tool is you have an access to CrowdStrike through our tool. You can utilize it, okay? So you're saving yourselves by, one, using Sumo logic and having the advantage of access to CrowdStrike, okay? So I shared that with you. You'll have that for your leisure. Again, just some extra information for you there. All right. Back here to our lab guide, okay? We're gonna run this search for 24 hours. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab under number 9, highlight everything under number 9 and copy it. Go back to our CIP. I can close my dashboard tab. I can always open that if I need it. I'm gonna add a new query log search. And I'll go ahead and paste in my query. First thing we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and replace those parameters with asterisks. Let's replace those with asterisks. Okay. Again, we want to bring back everything. Okay. And let's look at our code. So again, you know, we're going against CloudTrail. You know, we're parsing out all of that stuff. You know, we're creating parameters. We're rendering in 1 hour buckets or chunks. Okay. So up to this point, you're familiar with everything. All right. Now, the next actual statements, I'm going to comment these out for a second. The next actual statements are conditional statements. We're saying, hey, if the results equals success, let's make 1 true, 0 false. So if the results is true, it's going to be a 1. If it's false, it's going to be a 0. And we're going to create a new column called success counts. Let's run this for 24 hours. So again, in my success count, where my condition is met, I'll see a value of 1. Okay, where it's not met, I'll see a value of 0. Okay, we're going to do that one more time with the next statement. If our results are failures, we want that to be true, else false, which is 0. Okay, we're going to create a new column called failure count, and we're running that over a 24-hour period. So we'll see again in our messages tab, whenever we create an alias field down at the bottom there, you'll see it adds it as a display field. So not only do I have a success count, I have a failure count. So when it's success, we know that our results were success. We see a 1 there. So the failure had to be a 0. And then whenever we find a true in our failure, our success has to be false. Okay. I can always go over to my field browser here, and I can go to my failure count, click on it, and I can see, the percentage breakdown. Okay. All right. The next statement is going to do a mathematical computation. It's going to sum all of our success counts, sum all of our failure counts, and we're going to call that as failure. Okay, and it's summing it by slice, actor, and event type. And we should now see a new tab. Again, we're using an aggregate, the sum, and we're seeing our actual actor, how they addressed it, and how many successes they have versus failures. Okay. We can see Kevin down here had 73 successes and 2 failures. Okay. Might not be a bad ratio there. All right, next, we want to go ahead. Speaking of ratios, we want to only display where the failures are greater than 0. So we don't want to see anything that's 0. We don't want to, that doesn't concern us. We're only looking for where their failures are greater than 0. So we run that. Kevin should be one of those people that appears because he did have a ratio greater than 0. Okay. And there Kevin is, and there are multiple times, but again, he has different time periods. We're gonna have to write Kevin's password down for him because he's having trouble again. Multiple days. Maybe he changed it. Maybe it's a Monday and he changed it. You know how you change passwords on Monday and you forget it on Friday and forget it for Monday. All right, I digress. Anyhow, the last thing we're gonna do here is go ahead and divide our failures by our successes to get that percentage. We want a failure percentage, okay? We're multiplying that by 100. And we finally get our results. So we get the percentage rates of failures to successes. Okay. Awesome. We now want to add this as a panel. Okay. We're going to call this possible brute force attempts. Okay. Let's go back to our CIP, go over to the right. We'll see in there our dashboard, add to dashboard. Let's give this a name. Let's call it brute force, possible brute force attempts. We'll go ahead and look for our existing dashboard by typing in SOC to filter down and choose our dashboard. Again, go ahead and say add to panel. If you get it says filter already exists, go ahead and add it. And again, we're now on the second row of our dashboard where we added a possible brute force attack. All right. You guys are doing awesome. Thank you for hanging in there with me. Hopefully I'm not going too fast for you. You're almost there. Yeah, you can sort your columns. Absolutely. So if I go in here, you probably would have to do that in the actual query itself and then reattach the, so if I go back to the query itself there, David, and then just sort that, then I would go ahead and add it, okay? Or yeah, you can add it, physically add it in the statement, sort it. Yep, you can go ahead and add a sort statement as well. That's correct. Good thinking. You're the man. All right, so your quiz questions here. The underscore raw refers to the raw data in the incoming log in this example. JSON field equals raw, event type as event type. Correct, ladies and gentlemen, you're right, that's true, yeah. Number 2 here. If the result matches failure count, then return a 1 to failure in this example. So here it is, it says if results equals failure, 1 as failure count. Is that true or false? Correct, again, true. You guys are awesome. When you use a time slice for 1 hour or 1H, you're grouping your incoming logs into 1 hour groups for the purpose of analyzing your data over time. And of course, that one is true as well. You see the answer in the actual question. Awesome. So you have, congratulations, you have learned how to use if conditions. You reviewed how to create a parameter in a query. You added a 4th panel and you aggregated your data using this sum operator. All right, let's go ahead and detect a land speed violation in lab number 5. If you recall, during my introduction, I actually demoed and looked at an actual dashboard that saw someone log in from the US and then they logged into Egypt in a small period of time. That's what land speed is talking about, okay? In our society, the user community is mobile and they can log in from anywhere around the world. Due to this, detecting land speed violations is a critical factor. To protect your security, your corporate environment, early awareness of these credentials that have been leaked or phished is vital. A land speed violation is when a user logs in from one location and then logs again from another location within too short of a time period for practicality, okay? In this lab, we're going to merge various capabilities that we've previously learned with additional advanced query practices, okay? We will see how the code can be designed to flow from one step to the next, okay? We will use the operators backshift, geolookup, the IP4 number, and the mathematical operator. So let's first look up a few of these just to get an understanding here. The IPv4, okay, to number, that's a conversion, okay? It allows you to convert an IP address version to an octet, pardon me, a dot decimal format to a decimal format, okay? This decimal format makes it easier to compare one IP address to another. So we're going to be using this conversion operator, the IPv4, okay? We're also going to be utilizing the backshift. Now, that's one of the reasons that we need to use that conversion is because the backshift operator helps us compare values as they change over time. It is actually simply shifts the data points, okay? The backshift operator can be used with rolling or smooth operators as well. It's important to note that the backshift doesn't automatically add time slices, nor does it do any sorting, okay? All right, so we're going to use those operators in this upcoming expression here. Okay, so let's go back and grab our actual code. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I demonstrated where you can get the slides from, okay? You get the slides from your recorded live trainings. You also can get the lab guide from there as well. The reason I'm reminding you of this, when you take the actual exam coming up, it's going to ask you about this flow chart, okay? What I would do, I would bring up the actual lab number 5 while I'm taking the exam and put the actual steps in the right order, okay? So what we're doing here is giving you a flow chart typically of how your queries are going to be built. You're going to select the source category, parse out any user information and the IP address. You're going to filter any IP address that don't have any values. Then you're going to create the start of when your users logged in. You're going to examine them by time. You're then going to filter out any single logins to avoid any null messages. Then you'll convert it to a decimal format and then back to an IP address. Go look up each IP address, calculate the distance between successful logins by using the Haversine formula. Then we'll calculate our speed of travel by distance, and then we'll filter out any logins from the same IP, specify any impossible speeds, and then format it in the presentation. So this actual flow chart also has comments, and we want to thank Mr. John Meredith for that, for adding this, because it kind of walks you through what these steps are. And typically when you're coding, you usually add that pseudocode to kind of define what it is you're doing. So again, just to remind you, when you take the exam and you come to this, bring up your actual lab 5, okay? Anyhow, land speed, all right, it's going to provide a good example, a best practice approach for longer queries. It can also be helpful to represent your approach. We're going to start a new log search for 24-hour period, okay? Let's go ahead and go down to our query and let's copy that entire query. So if you can go down to number 11, it's pretty long there, number 11. Okay, let's copy number 11. And let's go back and go to our CIP. And let's create a new log search. I'm going to close some of these tabs so I can have a cleaner desktop and create a new log search. And let's paste that. Give it a second to paste from memory. It's a pretty huge, don't do it twice, otherwise you'll have the actual object there twice. So just give it a minute to actually post. Okay. All right, let's go back up to the top here. And I'm going to take this in chunks here, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm going to go ahead and comment out everything else here. All right. Still kind of bringing it up, I guess. Okay. All right, finally. All right, so let's look at this actual code. Once it comments out everything, takes a minute to actually, takes a second to do, because there's a lot of code here. And we want to break this down in chunks. While that's doing that, I know we want to do that over a 24 period, but I want to make sure the starting point is selector and ending point is sort. Okay, sort. And it's still trying to add my comments. There it is. All right, so I'll go up to the top of the actual query. Again, I'll change my time to 24 hours. All right, so the first thing we're doing here is we're selecting our source category. Okay, so you guys already know that part. That part, you know, okay, we're doing that source category. All right. Then after that, we're using our JSON to actually filter out our JSON fields. Okay, I'm just getting rid of the comments for those up top there. It's taking a little longer than I expected. All right, now you may or may not have experienced our no drop operator. Essentially what the no drop does is says, hey, I see you have a JSON filter and it's only looking for and meeting that criteria. Well, this no drop says, hey, if I have an expression that doesn't meet that criteria, don't drop it. Okay, don't drop it, bring it back anyhow. Okay, so that's what that no drop allows us to do. So we're bringing back all of these source IP addresses. We're going to call it IP. Even if it doesn't have an IP address, bring it back anyway. Okay. Next, we're then going to filter out a valid public IP address and create the start. So again, let me go ahead and comment out these or uncomment these. It's taking a little longer than I expected. I apologize. Alrighty. And it's a bear of code. So again, it takes a minute to compile and all of that good stuff. So just be patient with it. I'm actually speaking to myself. You guys are probably patient. It's me. Let me try just a new. All right, so there it is. Okay, let's try it now. All right, so before I run it the next time, I'm just going to speak to the actual comment so we don't run into that issue again. So again, it's bringing back all of the source IP addresses, even if it doesn't have a source IP, a username, we're going to bring that back. So even if it doesn't have a username, an IP address, we're going to bring it back. All right, so next, we're using a where clause here, where the user match is actor. So this is where we're creating our parameters. You guys should remember that. Again, anytime you see the curly brackets, that's going to allow you to create a parameter. And here we're creating a parameter for actor. Okay. We're then using a where statement. We want to find where we have public IP addresses. We don't want any private IP addresses. So again, we're filtering down to find all of our public IP addresses. That next statement there, the min, again, it's going to bring back the minimum amount of messages. There's a min and a max operator that you can utilize. Here we're bringing the min amount of login times, the minimum amount of login times, message times, I should say. And then finally, we're sorting by that. We're sorting by our user and the actual login time. All right, and when we get down further here, we're down to our conversion. So where you see the IPv to number, it's taking the public IP addresses that we were filtering for, and it's converting it to decimal. That IPv4 is going to convert it to decimal. It's going to be in a new column called IP decimal. Okay. We're utilizing the backshift operator because again, we converted that IP address to a decimal. We're using that backshift operator, and we're going to identify the decimal, the IP decimal, as well as the login time. Okay. And we want to find out where our backshift values are not null. So that next statement, the exclamation mark here, says bring back our values where they're not null. And if we scroll a little further here, you'll see we're now, once we find that backshift value, we then convert our decimal back to an IP address. So we're using the toInt object operator. We're using the backshift and the octal. Remember I talked about that octal object? Again, some of these can be on another line, and I apologize it didn't come over well. So much code here. Okay. I want to put these pipes on a new line so you can visually see them. Takes a second here. So again, we're converting our decimal back to IP address. We're using that toInt operator and the backshift as well. Okay, again, that's going to give us our different result sets. All right, so that's going to end up giving us our OCT2, OCT3, OCT4. Those are going to be our previous IPs. Then we get down to our geo lookups. Again, it's best, or it was recommended to me by John, and it's a good recommendation. It's best to read your lookups from right to left. Okay, and I'll do that here as well. So after we convert everything back to an IP address, we're going to go look up in our geolocation. So we provide the IP address in we look it up in our geolocation table. Okay, it's going to give us our latitude, and we're going to call it lat1. It's going to give us our longitude, call it long1, and give it our country name. Okay. We'll also, again, bring back the second IP address as well, lat2, long2, as well as country2. So again, those geo lookups that we're providing, the previous IP and the IP address. Okay. Then in our where clauses, we're making sure that we bring back items with values. So we're making sure that there's no values in our lat1s, lat2s, or longs, and our long1 and log2 there. Again, this is a bear of a calculation. That's why I'm taking it into chunks to kind of break it down, to kind of see some of the new features and functionality here. Okay. Then in order to calculate the distance, we use the Haversine formula. Okay. The Haversine is actually an operator here. And let's see what happened. So let me comment out the wheres and get down to my Haversine. While that is rendering, I'll go ahead and so you'll be able to do this as well. I'm just searching for Haversine again, just so I can understand how that calculation works. It returns the distance between the latitude and longitude values of two coordinates. Okay, so that's the Haversine, and that's the actual operator that we're going to use here to calculate the distance between lat1 and lat2. Then we're going to go ahead and calculate the speed the user would have to travel in order to have logged in from those multiple locations. And I'm just going to go back to the actual here. It's easier here. So here's where we are. We talked about the Haversine. Then we're calculating the speed, where the user would have to travel. So we're using the long time minus previous login time minus previous login time. We're dividing that. And then that's going to give us the time delta in hours. Then we're utilizing another calculation where we're doing our distance divided by our login time, which is going to give us our velocity. Okay. And then finally, we want to only display our velocities where it's greater than 0. Okay. Then lastly, we will specify any suspicious speeds by utilizing 500 as our suspicious speed ratio value. Okay, and then anything greater than our suspicious speed of 500, we want to see that velocity. And then finally, there's the formatting. Again, we concatenate items. We're using the concatenation operator, where we're concatenate our IP with our previous address, and we're going to call that IP address. So we're bringing things together with the concatenation operator. And then finally, we're using an if statement where we want our country name to be not equal to number country name 2. We'll concatenate that and call it countries. We'll use our fields operator to put the fields in the order that we want. So we want our user to appear first, IP address, countries, distance in kilometers, login time, and then our apparent velocity. So we're using this field operator to put the fields in the order we want them in our output. Okay. Then we're finally using a where clause where we only want to bring back where there is a user. Again, you'll see the exclamation point. And then we finally want our where to be not equal to infinity, which is one of our velocity choices. And then we're going to sort by that. Okay. So again, that was that entire query broken down. I'm going to create a new log search because I think my piping and all of that has got messed up, and I'll paste that query and run it for the last 24 hours. Thanks for your patience with that breakdown. I'm going to give it an opportunity to paste itself completely and run it over the last 24 hours. And if we run this over the last 24 hours, we should get the similar results as what we see in the actual lab guide. All right, so while that's rendering, I'll continue on here, ladies and gentlemen. We would add this panel as a land speed. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that because we're gonna add this here. Once it runs, we'll go ahead and add that to our dashboard. So we'll run that query, give it an opportunity to, oh, finally, Odell, you forgot to put the asterisk. So remember, we have a parameter up top. I forgot to do that, I apologize. But the query won't run, it'll give you an error message. So again, replace what's the actor with the asterisk. And give it an opportunity to execute. All right, you guys are doing awesome, great job. We're almost finished here. And mine is about to complete. If you get any pop-up messages that are asking you or prompting you to wait, go ahead and click on wait. Give it a chance to go ahead and run through all of this code. You're in our training environment, so again, lots of users are attempting to work in here. So again, that's part of the slowdown. In your real world environment, your production environments, it shouldn't be this slow. All right. While we're waiting, I'm going to go ahead and have you answer the questions. All right, geo lookup receives an IP address and returns a location, true or false? Thanks for participating, Grant and Jason. Daniel, you guys are correct, true. The Haversine formula was used to convert octals to decimal. If you recall, the Haversine distance to the latitude, coordinates in kilometers. Okay, so again, you guys are correct, Grant and David, that's false. Thank you for participating. My query is still going, okay. All right, last question here. Land speed violations allow you to detect suspicious user activity. That's true, yeah. Land speed, you logged in from your area, then your same login credentials is logging in from another country. So that's true, that's correct. All right, congratulations. You have learned how to format the fields, format with fields. You use the operators backshift, geolookup, and IP4, and you learn several mathematical operators. All right, let's let that run in the background. Let's go ahead on to our lab number 6. Investigating using search parameters, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and what we wanna do here is, now that we have a dashboard with several security panels, we can now enhance the functionality for deeper investigation. In this lab, we are going to add a lookup table to one of our previous created search parameters for easy investigation. So we're going to create a lookup table and then change one of our previously created search parameters, okay? In order to add a lookup table, let me just make sure this is still running, okay? All right. In order to add a lookup table, ladies and gentlemen, here, we first need to create the table by using a query, okay? On this last line, we're going to replace with our initials and our number that we use to log in. So down here where it says your initials, we're going to replace that with our initials and the login number, okay? So let's go ahead and highlight that entire query. Copy it. And if you can, you're going to go ahead and create a new log search. All right, so let's click on that. Let's see here. So here we have, let me digress for a moment, ladies and gentlemen. I have results finally down at the bottom. And I want to go ahead and add this to the dashboard so we can close out that last demo. So let's go ahead and click add to dashboard. If yours finished, hopefully it did. Again, we're going to call this one. Just want to make sure we call it correctly. Let's go ahead and call this land speed violations. Okay. Come on. Yeah, mine is acting very odd. All right, so let's go. Let's land speed violations. Okay, and I'll put my initials. And again, you're adding to our SOC, and voila. We're going to say okay to any messages that pop up. Hey, actor already exists. Do you want to change it? Nope, we're going to just add it. Okay. So hopefully you now have that land speed violation added as well. Okay. Now let's go back and add a new log search. I'm gonna go back and grab my query from number 7. So again, excuse me, number 6 here. Let's grab the entire query, copy it, go back, add, paste it in here. We're doing it for 24 hours. Okay, so let's kind of read what's going on to get an understanding. We're using our metadata tag, but look at our CloudTrail logs. We're parsing out our username, calling it actor. We're counting up the actor. We're specifying the fields. Okay, we're going to call this is going to remove the actual the count field in the display. So let me demonstrate what's going on. So again, when I run this 24 hours, again, I get my trails, I get my JSON fields, okay, and I get the actual count of my fields. So notice when I get the count, I display actor and count. This next step field says, hey, Odell, don't display the field. So actually, we're not going to display this underscore count. We're using the fields operator to tell it here, don't display the actors, okay? So we're getting a count. Once it runs, so we're seeing all of our actors. And again, the field says, hey, don't display the count. So we're seeing all of our actors. All right. The last thing we're going to do here is we're going to replace the brackets. So we want to put our initial and then our number as well, 343. Okay. And let's run that. Okay. It's going to ask you, are you sure you want to run this? Doing so with results, you guess, yes, we want to run this. Odell, what are we doing? We're creating those values for our prompts. So we're creating a lookup table. Okay. All right, going back to our dashboard here. All right, so the lookup table is now created. Next, we're going to verify that the contents of our lookup table. We're going to open up a new log search, and we're using the cat shared. So it's going to allow us to look up and find if that actual object was created. Okay, so let's go back here, create a new search here, and paste in. And again, we need to replace the brackets. Again, with our initials and the number. Okay. Make sure you get rid of the brackets and the pound. So it should look like mine. Similarly, run that. If it finds it, it'll display your actors. Okay. So we created a lookup table so we can utilize in our pivots. We searched to make sure that that lookup table had been created. That's what the last step does for us. Okay. All right, now we want to go ahead and manage our parameters. Now we will go and modify the actor parameter to use the lookup table. This will allow us to easily pivot to our different actors. Okay, so in our SOC dashboard, let's open up any one of those queries, and then we're going to go to the show and search. So I'm going back here to my SOC dashboard. And in order to open up any one of these in a query search, we just click on the three dots, the show and search, click on that. Okay, then we're going to go to our manage parameters for our actor. Okay, so we click on the three dots for our actor and click on manage parameters. Okay, you should see this screen, manage parameter settings. Go down to set values for this parameter. Okay. Again, we're going to follow our steps here. We're choosing the lookup, and this time we're going to specify shared, and I'm just copying under number 8, and I'm going to replace it once I get there. Okay. So again, we're just going back to where it says select the format. We're going to choose the lookup. And remember, before we actually looked up and found a file that was there for us. Okay, so I'm just going to paste in here, and then I'm going to just replace this with my initials. Okay, it should find your item no matter what case you're using. So again, I'm finding my item there. Okay. And we did all of that. Yep. And there isn't an actual label. So we have a selected field as actors. That's the value. So the selected field should be actors. So let's go ahead and click on that in the drop down. So again, all we did was we put in our information. We made sure that we had the actor as the field. Okay, we made sure it was a lookup. So those are the 3 parameters that we set. Okay. And we'll use none as the selected field. So let's save that. Okay, and we should be able to remove the asterisk, run our, we could make a selection. You'll see once you remove the asterisk, you'll see a list of all of those names. So I can click on Gosia and run my reports. Okay, so what we're seeing here is all of our information for Gosia because we were able to filter our results using the actual table that we created. Okay, we would do this for the other item as well, or the other items that we have, but you kind of know how to do it now.
Odell,
Yes, sir.
let me go back to that search and click updates to dashboard, please.
All right, yeah, good point here. All right, so let's back up for a second. Good point here. We made changes here. So in order for those changes to be made effect in the dashboard we created, we need to click on the update dashboard because we made a change. Okay, it says you have changed the time range of your search. Do you want to apply that? We'll leave it as it is. Okay, leave everything as it is. So again, even though we made a change to the query, we need to also update the dashboard. Okay.
Now you can show them where the filter is at the top of the
So yeah,
dashboard.
you can go to any one of these corners, one of these filter icons here, and it'll give you this drop down choice. I can remove that object and see all of my choices. Okay, whatever I choose to run, it's going to apply to all of these dashboards. It's a global filter. Good point. Thank you, John. All right. All right. So questions here. To display the lookup table, I use the command CP. That's correct. That's a copy command from Unix. I never use CP. So correct, Jabez. It's false. Okay. Search parameters allow me to pivot quickly to any metadata values. Pivot essentially means it allows me to choose. So you have multiple choices. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. I use the save operator to create a lookup table. That's true. Okay, we use the save because we saved it as our new name. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we saved it as our new name. And that's how we were able to create that new parameter. Okay. So I just want to point this out to everyone. So here we're using the save operator, and that created our actual new lookup table. Awesome. All right, I'll demonstrate this for you, Lab 7. Again, being able to export out your dashboard from training. This is something that, you know, some users have wanted to find out about, to be able to take things home from our class at one period of time. So we're continuing to do this. All right, you can just kind of watch this. I'm going to go to my SOC dashboard, and then I'll go to export out. So again, I'm going to my actual navigation panel. Here's my dashboard. I click on the 3 dots. I have the ability to export out. Okay, I can then download this. I can go to an editor. I can then make some changes to this and then come back, click on the three dots, and then I would have an import here as well. Okay, I can go up to the three dots here and import. So where you see the search at, I would just go import, give it a name, give the actual JSON, and then bring that in. Okay. What are we saying here? Yes, James, question number was true. Number 2 was true. Okay. Yeah, I thought I said that. So I'm sorry if I missed that. All right. If there aren't, let's go to number 8 here. This is the last lab here, using a threat intel wisely to avoid costly breaches. All right, so here in this lab here, we can go to our IP threats. And again, we can, each day people may be able to attempt to access your company's environment. We can continue with our labs using our centralized log management capability. Here we're going to check for all incoming IP addresses for possible malicious intent using our embedded CrowdStrike lookup table. For faster response times, we'll learn how to take advantage of using scheduled views. Okay. So I'm just going to go look at a particular schedule view and then show you and demonstrate to you what it's doing. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Okay. So let me go over to my manage logs and get to my IP threats. You can just watch this, ladies and gentlemen. So manage logs. Go to my schedule views. This is typically an administrator's role. Okay. And I'm gonna look at my IP threats. Here I can look at the actual source of how it was created. Okay, again, I can see the retention period there. I can see what it's parsing out. All right, and I can see the actual results there of the retention period, as well as who created, as well as the actual forwarding, if any. Yes, David, your queries can be scheduled to run. Again, remember, just go up to the save icon and go schedule and choose the period you want to schedule it for. You can create a custom period and choose the time range that you want as well. Oops, and you can also, I apologize for that, that slipped away real quickly. You can also, with that schedule, you can also have the ability to designate what employees receive it. So again, you just go to the save as. So I go here, I can choose email and I can choose recipients. Okay. So I can put, let's say John Meredith here, and I can send it to him and so forth. So I hope that answers your question.
Odell,
Yeah.
while
Yeah.
we're here, grab the alert type for a second and show them they can save it to a lookup table too.
Yeah, there you go. Great, good point, John. So but you can save this, which is a great point. Instead of creating a lookup table, you can save it to a lookup table and utilize that. So that's good. Good point. Yeah. Good questions. All right, other questions? All right, just to kind of remind you again, why did we do some of those things? There's a syntax that we follow with our queries. You want to keep that syntax in mind. The benefit of it, it allows you to search and narrow your scope search, again, by using parsing. There's different types of parsing. There's different filter operators, aggregate operators, and formatting. Okay. All right. All right, so wrapping things up, any questions? All right, let's go ahead and get into our exam. Remember, in order to take our exam, ladies and gentlemen, we need to log out of the training environment. You're in our training environment. We don't want your certificate to read, congratulations, training analyst 837. No, so you're gonna go ahead and log out of that. So sign out, okay? Then you're gonna go ahead and sign in into your company's Sumo Logic environment, just like I'm doing. Once you log in, you're going to go to the Home tab, the certification link, Home tab, certification link, and click on the Get Certified. This is in your environment, not in our training environment. Once you get there, you're going to click on Get Certified, which is this icon right here, this box right here. You can filter down to a specific language you want. We, of course, if you scroll down, make sure you choose the right phrase. You're taking the cloud security monitoring and analysis. That's the one you're taking, nothing else, okay? So you click on that and register. Go ahead and start your exam. One thing to point out, again, it consists of 22 questions. You have 60 minutes. I'll be here for the entire 60 minutes. Again, you need a 70 to pass. One of the things you want to be mindful of is once you answer the questions. Again, here's that one example that I was talking about, ladies. It's the very first question. It's a mapping here. So if you want to map some things, you can do that. Essentially, you're just dragging over. Okay, but once you complete, you want to go down to next. And the thing that I want you to be aware of, you can see the ones you got wrong. It's not going to give you the answer, but at least you have a mental note of which one was wrong. So you submit, and then it'll allow you to take that exam again. Okay. Again, it's open book, open resources. Ask your questions in chat. Again, we're here to help you. On behalf of John, Meredith, and myself, we thank you for joining us. We hope to see you in some upcoming trainings. We do have courses tomorrow as well. I will put in the chat the actual Uber Eats voucher. After you complete the exam, if you're taking it now while it's fresh in your mind, you can go ahead and log out of the session. Again, I'll be here for an hour for your exams. John, do you have anything before we close out?
No, sir.
All right, I'm going to stop recording.
Is there an Uber Eats voucher for yesterday? We'll put that form on the in the chat, James, for you.